to spread out, and there's a lot of stuff going on right now. Do we have everybody that's going to get in the fly draw in it? If we do, we'll go ahead and get, there comes Gene in. He may want to get in there. We'll just talk a little bit before that. Anybody been fishing, caught any fish, know anything about any fish or seen one? No? Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, we saw some fish Tuesday. I mean, those are some beautiful fish went over in that falls. You need everybody to be getting down there and catching some of those things.
How'd you catch your fish down there? Yeah, I know you did.
And at the end of, when we get down here, here in a little bit after our program, we're going to get, we'll get all you Black Creek fishermen, Logan and Terry and Alan and Frank, and we're going to have a discussion about how to fish for those fish, what to use, how to catch them, and you'll go down here and bring home a limit every time you go. So, well, let's go ahead and do the fly draw and get it out of the way. Y'all don't mind. Can't look at that projector. I don't have a fish in this fight or dog in this fight, so I'll just do the drawing myself. First ticket is.
Oh, I didn't get it to you.
Huh?
Can y'all redo it? I forgot to get my ticket.
Well, you better come get it. I hear Mary get you. Well, this is 065.
I'm hoping somebody else will get, so we'll pick up.
Johnson Cosby.
I got a t-shirt.
There you go.
I learned that real quick.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah. Hope you didn't think I
Put me in the
eat.
hospital.
All right, the next number drawn is 067. We're gonna go through these pretty quick. We got a lot of stuff to talk about here before we let George go to work. 063. $66. Somebody's got to have 66. Oh, there you are.
Roots.
57. I knew it was about time for you. That's why I looked at it. I tried to get yours out a little bit earlier, but I couldn't do it. Over there. Just pick out what's left. 87.
Okay.
62. And last 64.
Yeah. Yeah, three. I like them jerks you got.
You don't have much of a choice there, Jerry. Okay, where was I at now? Okay.
You were right up there.
I've already given you a brief stocking report. We had a wonderful stock up there. Had some really, really fresh fish. So we pulled it up from Friday to Tuesday to get the fish in there without having to put them in a holding pond for a while. And those babies were lively, big, and pretty. There's some trophy fish in that water. We put them all the way down to Tuscaloosa Bridge, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. And that area down there is basically gonna be for the spinning rod people, to try to keep them from poaching in on us up there in the fly fishing only. Permits are available. You just have to get you one and go.
Now,
Coming up, huh?
do you have to buy them at the office or can you buy them online?
You can buy them online.
You can buy them online or at the office. You can catch it open.
You think you're
So,
doing
But anyway, what we got coming up, I'm gonna try to go through all this and let everybody cipher it, and I hope I don't get any dates wrong. On our next meeting, December the 2nd, we have Tony Cox coming. Some of you know him. Some of you people have been in the club for several years. He's a fly fishing guide up on Wheeler, Pickwick. He fishes basically smallmouth. He does a lot of fishing in the tributaries coming into the river up that way. And we are going to purchase a guided trip for him, and we will auction it off on March the 2nd or March the 3rd at our meeting in March. We're not having a whole lot going up. Yeah, Frank?
Chuck, you said auction it off.
Not auction, I'm sorry. We're gonna have a free drawing. To participate in the drawing, you have to be a paid up member for the year 22. And that's it. We're, the directors are gonna meet here in the next few days, hopefully, maybe even this weekend, and set up the parameters for the draw. Because there's a lot of little things involved in it, and we want to get them all down and all in writing, so we'll have something to go by every time we have a draw. And to continue on, we won't have anything in January except our own club programs that we got scheduled. Now on February the 3rd, we got Eastern Fly Fishing Guide Service down off the Tallapoosa River, Drew Morgan, and we're trying to get him to come up here, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's going to be a Zoom meeting, and I'm hoping.
Let me clarify that. He will be attending via Zoom, but we'll still have a meeting here in the building. And if you want to join in on Zoom, you can do that as well, but he'll be showing up there on the screen, and we can still do questions and everything.
Yeah. And did he tell you that he was going to donate a trip? He didn't tell you that? He made the mistake in his email yesterday. He wanted to know if we were going to buy a trip or if we wanted him to donate one. And I said, we would love a donated trip. He hasn't said no yet. So I've got Frank calling and trying to punch him. They're good friends, and maybe we can get that trip out of him. And it will be including in this draw on March the 2nd. Anything after that, I really don't have. I'm looking at getting, I think his name's Gary, owns the kayak shop up on the Terrapin Creek. Anybody familiar with that?
Oh, I've been there.
Huh?
Redneck Yacht Club?
Well, there's
No,
videos.
this is up on the
Outdoors.
other side of Highway 9. Anyway, I know him. I just can't remember his name. Yeah.
Last name is Warren.
Yeah, Bobby Warren's son. Everybody, y'all, a lot of y'all probably know Bobby Warren. He's been around here for ages, but he has passed away. But his name's Mike, not Gary. It's Mike Warren. I'm gonna see about getting him to come down here and talk to basically the new folks that don't have boats and may be interested in the kayak. And he can give you a lot of information about what you need to look for, price ranges, and all kinds of things that might help you make a decision where you want to get involved with the kayak or not, or because I don't see how people maintain a fishing career without a watercraft or a bunch of watercrafts. Isn't that right, Terry? How many watercraft you have to have? to
Well,
do
you can,
trout
yeah,
fishing?
you can do good land base too. You can do good land base.
And, but anyway, that's something else we got. And I've got another little program working in the back of my mind, but I'm not ready to release that information yet. Like I said, the giveaway drawing will be at the March 2nd meeting, March 3rd meeting, whatever day it's on. And, anybody got any questions or anything about what I just went over? So, well, okay, I'm just gonna back out of the way and turn it over to George.
Appreciate being here, getting to speak with you, and some of y'all have actually seen this program before. Some of you haven't. I'm gonna try to present some new information. Right now, we just put fish in Black Creek, and so I'm gonna talk a little bit about Black Creek. You know, we all like going fishing, and we all like catching fish. And the whole idea is trying to find a fish that'll eat a fly. So how are we gonna, how do
You just let me know when you're ready and I'll.
Okay, go ahead. Flip it on, and this again, where do we start? And I follow 3 rules when I walk up, when I want to go fishing. I try to restrain my enthusiasm a little bit. And when I walk up to a new body of water, I try to stop, look, and listen and see what's going on in the water before I just wade right in. Because in general, there can be fish right there where you would be wading right in. They're always going to be better if you just take a minute, stop, look, and listen. Fish need 3 things to live. They need oxygen, they need food, and they need a place to hide. And this is a good example. This is an example of a typical sort of stream, not too dissimilar from Black. You've got, number 1, if you look at number 3 right there in the middle, there's your oxygen source. And that's one of the reasons why Black Creek is a great place for trout. You've got that waterfall that puts tons of oxygen in here. A little bit later, you'll see a slide that'll show you that colder water holds more oxygen. And again, that's why Black Creek is a great place to live. But it also, they need a place for food, and they need a place to hide. I like to think of a stream as a food conveyor belt. It's like being on the buffet. You know, all they got to do is find some quiet water to hide in, and the buffet is going to come running by. Go to the next slide there. And there we are at Black Creek. Chuck, I'm not trying to steal your thunder about Black Creek fishing, but I thought it would be a good example since we all know it so well. We're all familiar with the spots there. Again, we've got plenty of oxygen coming in, and we've got deep water for those fish to hide in. But let's think for a second about how these fish are going to relate to current, because there's current in Black Creek. Fish are basically lazy. They want to be in still water right next to fast water. They want to be next to that food conveyor belt. We've all, or I would say 90% of us have been fishing right there on that spot. Why is that a good spot? We've got immediate access to this break right here. That point acts like a main lake point in a lake. You're thinking about a lake fishing out here on the Coosa. These Coosa fish strongly relate to main lake points. That's where the fish are, because you've got, this point extends all the way down in here into the water, under the water that we can't see. They can get in there behind that, get out of the current where life is easy, and yet that food conveyor belt is coming right over their head. Okay? And again, same thing. So what does that tell you? Now remember, bass want to stay in the calm water. They don't want to get out of the calm water and work hard. Every bit of food that comes by them, they have to make a decision. Is it worth going after? Is it worth swimming for? Is it gonna be an easy pickings? They'll go up for something that's an easy pickings, even if it's not really what they've been eating. If it looks like it's food, but if it's something they're gonna have to work for, it better look like food, because they're gonna expend more energy getting up in that fast current than they are gonna get from the food they eat. And they make this little mental calculation of 1,000,000 times a day in their head, and have been doing it for millions of years, so they're good at it. They can figure this out. So again, they're hiding in this slack water. Again, we all know the shallow water is here. Over here on the deeper side of the creek, that's easy living for them in that deeper water. Still water runs deep. They get down deep and low in that water. They're out of the main current, and yet that conveyor belt is going over their head all the time. Again, that brings up, well, leave it right there for a second. We'll use this as a great example. You've got to get your fly where the fish want to live. Fish is not where if your fly is not where the fish want to be, they're not going to eat it. 90% of the fish are in 10% of the water, right? We all know that. So you've got to get your fly down to where those fish are. If you don't want to fish deep with heavy weighted flies, you've got to get down here in this ripply water. And there'll still be fish all in here. But you think about it, there's lots of great hiding places for them. This river, we're not, they know they're not the only critter in there. There's ospreys in there. There's otters in there. Everything's trying to eat them too. They've got to have protection. If you don't want to fish with heavy weighted flies, get down here in these ripples. But again, you've got to make that fly look like the victim. On our Gene and I went up to Tennessee recently, had a fabulous trip up on the South Holston. I'll tell you about it if I want to hear about it. But we were listening to an audio tape on the way home, and the guy had some great information. I'm sure everybody in this room has fished with the Texas rig rubber worm. How you fish with the Texas rig rubber worm? You throw it out there, you let it sink to the bottom, you reel up the slack, and then what do you use to move the worm?
That's one.
Use a rod. You lift that rod up, and then you let it drop down, take the slack out, right? This fly fishing guy was saying, do the same thing with your fly. If you want them to eat that woolly booger, use your rod to move the fly through the water. Anytime you're fishing a streamer, use your rod to move the fly through the water. You know how far you're moving that fly in. Take the slack out of it, use your rod to move the fly. And what happens when you stop moving? The fly settles down with a wounded bait. Where does it go? To the bottom. So that trout's been sitting there watching that little woodworker fly through the air, and all of a sudden, right in front of his nose. He can't help it. It just made a lot of intuitive sense to me that that technique is going to work rather than strip, strip, strip. Well, if it's strip, 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 that trout's going, gee, I got to chase that down. I'm feeling kind of lazy. But if it drops right in front of his nose and he's sitting there looking at it, that's a wounded one. I can eat him quick. Again, what makes this a great habitat? This is Black Creek. You've got plenty of oxygen coming in here. You've got a current seam right here. You've got a little backwater eddy where life is easy. That trout can lay in there out of that fast current. Same here. Got a little backwater eddy. Life is easy in there. Don't have to work at it. You flip the fly up here, let it drift right in front of his nose. Keep it down low where he wants to be. You've got wood in the water. Again, a nice current break. It also provides cover from above that osprey can't eat him. I haven't seen a lot of ospreys in there. Have y'all? Down there in the water? I've not seen them. Have you, Chuck?
I've
Never seen them.
I know, I've been told they were there. but I've never seen
Most trout streams, the ospreys hammer down on the fish. You know, I hope the local ospreys don't discover it. But again, this is a great example of what makes Black Creek a great place to fish. You've got these pools and eddies. Logan, you fished a lot downstream this year, didn't you? Is that the kind of area you were fishing in?
Yeah, most of the little
The
pools. and
riffly
eddies.
stuff? Riffly, fish that are in riffly water usually want to eat something. They're there for a reason. And they don't get a real good look at what's come by them. That water's moving pretty good in those ripples. They're there to eat. And they're gonna, if it looks fishy, they're gonna inhale it, taste it. If it doesn't look fishy, they're gonna spit it out. So it's up to you to set the hook. Look the slide over. See what-
They can do that in a hurry too.
Again, this is more Black Creek, kind of out of focus, sorry. More ripply water in here. That's the main thing this slide was in here. You've got still flat water up here. It's kind of hard to fish. That's what Jane and I were having to fish up on the Holston a lot of times, excuse me, on the Watauga, with some still flat water. And in still flat water, there's trout there, but they can really eyeball your fly. They come up, they get to be experts at what's got a hook in it. They learn real quick what's got a hook in it, what doesn't. And so still flat water is a lot harder to fish in. This water that's moving in the ripples, go ahead, that's fine. Again, more Black Creek fishing. This guy is standing on the sandbar, but you see where he's fishing. He's fishing that deep run. Again, you've got current blowing right over that, right over the top of it. Those fish are down deep. If you bring something by their face that looks edible, they're going to come up and eat it. As long as it's easy to eat. For it to be easy to eat, it's got to be down deep where they're living. Those fish that you see scooting across the surface like that, they're running from you. They're not going to eat anything. Jane and I ran every time our boat would run over a fish, we saw some huge trout up on the Watauga River as our boat was passing over it. They were spooked. There was no way we were going to catch them. They were spooked fish. Move on to the next one. Y'all love to catch fish. Keep going. Keep going. We got to find them. Again, back to my previous slide. Stop, look, and listen. This is a picture of the Coosa River, Neely Henry Lake. And again, you got a lot of things in this picture. It's a little out of focus. You've got a wooden dock. We were talking earlier about the Coosa River. Why aren't there brown in the Coosa River? It's the lack
Because
of
of big
cover.
cat.
A lot of predators eating them. Every dock, if you're fishing the Coosa, you need to throw something around every dock, particularly the shady side, particularly if there's a ladder going down in the water. That ladder breaks it up with lateral stuff and with horizontal stuff. That ladder in the water is just structure. You can't see it really well with this slide, but there's weeds over here. Any weed bed in the Coosa, if you're trying to catch brown, that's where to fish at. Then again, if you're trying to catch bass, you want to get out on your main lake points here. Those bass, and especially in the Coosa when they're pulling current, act a lot like trout. The primary fish in the Coosa River is spotted bass. It acts like a smallmouth and a trout. It relates to current. Anytime the dams are running, there's going to be some amount of current, and 6 million years of instinct tell that spotted bass to get behind some cover and watch the food conveyor belt. Watch that current from the food conveyor belt. That's a little better. That's a little clearer. But again, when you go down to the water, stop, look, and listen. When I'm fishing a new body of water, I don't walk up to the water's edge. I've got a 9-foot fly rod. If that piano is the water's edge, I'll stop here, start casting right here at the water's edge. I want to catch those fish right there. In addition to the fish that are out in the parking lot, I want to catch both of them. It's the same way in a mountain stream. Fish will go to the head of the pool to eat, right? They'll go up where the ripple is. But there's plenty of fish back in the tailwater of the pool. But if you cast over those tailwater fish and tailing fish in the pool, you're not going to catch them. So let's move on to the next slide. Again, it just shows you we're surrounded by water here in every direction from us. Here's Gadsden. in every direction. You've got lakes. And again, our main body of water is this Coosa River chain that Black Creek is part of. You keep going. So it behooves us to find feeding fish. Keep moving. This time of year, this slide is here to remind me, bass don't necessarily like real hot water and real cold water. You can catch them in other types of water, but you're going to have to work a little harder to do it. That's their ideal temperature, and that's when they start spawning, is in the spring when that water hits about 75 degrees. You said you lived on the Coosa. What's the river temp right now? But 55, 60, cold enough to where it's cold in my hand. Yeah. It's cold right now. So you're going to have to work hard to catch those fish. This is a complicated chart. Basically, it shows the hotter the water gets, the less oxygen there is in it. The colder the water is, the more oxygen there is in it. That's one of the reasons why right below that waterfall is a great place for us to put out fish. But it also tells us where we need to be fishing. Can help us to figure out where to fish other times of the year too. Do another slide. And again, fish like oxygen. It's pretty common sense. Fish need three things: food, oxygen, cover. Move on to the next slide. There, again, you got to fish kind of the micro environments. And that's what I've been trying to talk about. You've got to fish the little, not just the boat dock, but the post in the boat dock. Fish don't have eyelids, you know. I know I'm telling y'all stuff y'all know, but yeah, we've all seen bass come up and hide right behind a post, and the only thing that's hidden is their eyeball, but they think they're hidden. You can't just cast to the dock. Yes, sir.
I've been at a fair before and I've seen, a guard just cruise through there. Why do they do that? They just cruise just right through there like they're a sub.
Yeah, I see those thug guard too. And I've tried to catch a bunch of them.
You use them rope floats?
Yeah, they're hard. I think gar spend a lot of time just cruising. You know, they're not like bass. Bass will flip over to the next slide. I think there's a picture of the bass. Just one more. Well, we'll get to it in a minute. There's a picture of a bass. Bass spend a lot of time laying up. And I occasionally see gar doing that too. I'm not sure why they cruise. They're I know they're easier to catch when they are cruising.
Yeah, well, they're like a more prehistoric type fish. Maybe that's some prehistoric type hunt.
Maybe so. I think they're always on the hunt. Again, this slide just reiterates what I was talking about. The micro environment of fish. They're going to be on the shady side. They're going to be next to these posts. And again, this is the Coosa River. Bass don't have eyelids. You've got to get your fly down where they are. If you're stripping that woolly booger in the top 1 foot of water, it's not going to get eaten most of the time. You've got to get that woolly booger down deep where those fish live. It's going to get eaten. That's one of the reasons why all of us have used a popper and a dropper. Everybody's trained on fish with a popper and dropper. Probably a bunch. For summertime, that's my go-to because that dropper gets down there where the fish are. Fish don't have to work hard to eat it. Swim up to the top of to the surface to get that popping bug. They got to be energetic. They've got to be willing to commit to it. You can move on. Move on to the next slide.
There you go.
There's the bass I was going to show you. Bass spend a lot of time laid up. That's under my boat dock. That bass will sit there all day in about a 3 foot area.
Is it
He's
small?
back and forth, and he won't eat squat when he's there. He's not in a feeding mode at all.
You think it's on a bed? They're bedding at that time?
They usually bed, their bed is actually right here in a little shallow water. I know where that bass bed's at.
Well, do you think they share it with brim because bass
No.
and brim are close?
I think they predate each other. I think bass eat brim, and I think brim eat bass eggs.
Now, I was watching this video and this guy caught a crappie. And it
Right.
actually had a scar or a wound from a gar they
Oh,
don't.
yeah, fish love to eat other fish. That's one of the reasons why when you're making a streamer, like a clouser,
Put like a spot of red.
put a spot of red on it, put eyeballs on it. Because you think about it, if you're trying to eat something with fins on it, and you're trying to swallow it whole, it's a lot easier to eat head first. It'll be a lot easier to swallow. head
Well,
first.
on the Tennessee River, there's them lampreys. And that, like, you'll catch a bass and he'll be stuck on
I've seen those. I've wondered,
the jawless fish.
up in Alaska, we use a lot of leech flies. And I've wondered if that wouldn't work. Look, basically, it's a strip of black rabbit fur is what we're fishing with. I've wondered if that wouldn't work down on Gunnersville. Because
Well-
I've heard a fair number of reports of people catching bass and other fish with those lampreys attached to them, the big sucker wounds, big round sucker wounds. I know in the Coosa River right here, we've got a lot of leeches. There are a lot of leeches. If you don't believe me, go wading in the weeds barelegged sometime. They'll be on you.
Well, a lamprey is actually a fish. It's the very prehistoric type fish. It's a jawless fish.
Comes in from the ocean. Again, more fish from other docks. More fish from, good looking guy right there. Yeah, keep on rolling here.
How'd you know that was a male fish?
All fish like to eat top water. And Lily, we were talking earlier about the lack of brim. I don't know your name, Dwayne Doyle, that's it. Doyle was mentioning the lack of lily pads, and I think he's right. There is a lack of lily pads on this river. All brim and bass both like lily pads. Again, there's tons of ambush points. This shows a typical lily pad bed. And what is there, 9 different ambush points where a fish can live an easy life. Again, they're watching the food conveyor belt go by. When they're laid up on this point, they're waiting for something, innocent victim to come wandering by that they can nail. So when you go fishing, you gotta look for those cuts. I know probably half this group has fished in Louisiana before. Redfish and trout act exactly the same way. There'll be a mile-long stretch of weeds, and there'll be one little divot in it. And that one little divot, I guarantee you, this redfish laid up in it, waiting for a victim to wander by. You can move on to the next slide. Again, temperature, I said temperature matters. This is the biggest bass I've ever caught out of my own lake. And I caught it literally at high noon on a 100-degree day in the lily pads. Now I had to let my fly soak, as you told me to do one time. I threw a popping bug out there and let it soak for a long time. He came up and nailed it. So big fish will live in shallow water in the summertime. You don't think they will. You think those big bass are down deep on the bottom of the lake in the summer. That was in a foot of water under the lily pads. But it had a little micro environment in the shade. That lily pad's green. It's putting off plenty of oxygen for that fish to live. And the high oxygen content from all those weeds enable that fish to live up close to the surface. Took a big old popper. Again, you notice the cuts. That fish, that's a Gunnersville fish, came from right there. That's right up by the park. That's right up by the boat ramp.
The town crate.
It went,
That uptown crate here.
yeah, sure is. You recognize it?
Well, I just, she said state park. It's called.
Yeah. Again, just a reminder, fish like ambush points. So when you stop, look, and listen at the lake, you're going to be looking for stuff up in the surface, logs up coming down from the bank. Remember those logs that are on the bank? They go all the way down into the water and provide great ambush points for those fish. How many of y'all have been up to DeKalb County Lake? Anybody? We fished a fish here, I think. The Cobb County Lake has some, if you haven't been fishing, I strongly encourage you to borrow a boat or a kayak or canoe and go up there. There's some really big bass in the Cobb County Lake.
Don't they rent boats there?
Yeah, they rent, that's right.
Bay County
rent-
does.
They rent little John boats up
Boats
there.
and batteries.
But they have put out a ton of structure on the south bank of that lake. It's well marked. Look online and there's a GPS map of where every bit of structure is. The jewelry store guy, Bill Couch, and I went up there. And he was very fortunate. He caught a really big bass. I caught a medium sized one. And again, it's out of that well marked structure. Just seeing this reminds me of it. It's a lot of stuff. It's out in probably 8 to 10 feet of water where they have put stick ups and stuff. That fish, that lake gets real clear. So Terry and I have kind of decided that's a good spring lake to fish. Springtime, it's a lot harder to fish in the late summer. I think it might be a good place for a club trip this spring, Chuck. March, somewhere in there, you think? March or April, Terry? I think it would be, I plan on spending a couple of days there this spring because there are some 8, 10-pound bass in there. And that's public water that you can fish. It's catching the lease for the big bass up there. I think it's well worth the trip up there with those catching. That was the fish caught around wood. Again, had to let it soak like Alan Hodges likes to do. You had already soaked one in that spot though, didn't you? Now I caught that on a cicada fly. That was at the last cicada hatch we had. That was up on the New River in Virginia. But again, that was visible structure from the water. It was a big wood stick up over here on the side. And you could see the dead tree sticking up out of the water. And again, I must have put that fly there and that realizing that bass, that smallmouth was probably down about 6 feet. And it was going to sit there and look at that fly for a while before it made a decision. They'll come up and eat a fly, but they're going to look at it for a while most of the time. This slide is in here to remind y'all to fish structure within the lake. Not just these main lake points that we've talked about already. Anytime there's current, and this is such a beautiful, obvious point. You've got the main channel coming down here where the water's going to be flowing, and you've got a main lake point, and you've got a feeder creek. There has to be a bass living right there. That's too good a spot. There's going to be a bass living there. But there's also bass living in that feeder creek too. Look at the next slide. Flip one more. There it is. This is a similar situation. This is December 7th, cold day. And Gene had a bottom fly, belly booger, in the main channel of this pond, bouncing it around. And he didn't hit it real hard, did he?
Yeah.
He picked it up.
Real
Real soft sight.
kind of stuck to me.
He was laying in that, and that's where in a pond this time of year, even on the, we had gloves on, coats on. It's cold day. I don't know what the temperature was that day. But those bass will get into that very deep water because that's some of the warmest water in a pond. It's right in that main channel. This is not a big pond. It's what, about 5 acres, 6 acres, something like that. And busting shad. That's my favorite kind of fish to catch. I love fish that are hungry. And you'll see that. I see it more at Gunnersville than I see it here in Coosa. I occasionally see hybrid bass and
Whiteman.
largemouth bass busting up from shad. When you do, if you're at a lake where there's a big shad population, yeah, I keep something rigged up on my boat to throw at them. You can either throw a big shad-looking topwater lure, like a pencil popper.
What about a torpedo?
Now, what's a tornado?
A torpedo.
Torpedo, yeah. same kind of thing, top water bait, big top water fly, or a big white streamer. I have a white streamer that I love to throw because it has a propeller on the front. I think I've given some of you on those flies. But it puts that, the fish have a lateral line, they can feel that vibration. Even of a little bitty spinner, they can still feel that. So again, stop, look, and listen. If there's actively feeding fish, go there. They're gonna be a lot easier fish to catch. All right, and again, that fish was caught, striped bass, caught on the surface on actively feeding fish. That fish was busting shad down on Logan Martin when it was caught. Oh, this is one of my favorite slides to remind us why sitting in a kayak or sitting in a belly boat or sitting down works for catching fish. When I first started fishing, I was fishing out fly fishing. I fished almost exclusively small streams in the Smokies. I was younger and energetic and enthusiastic and crawl up and down those little mountain streams in the Smokies. And I was struggling trying to catch fish. And I ran into a guy up there, probably real old like me right now, guy up there. And I asked him how he was catching so many fish. He said, sit down. He said, if you're fishing in the Smokies, the first thing on your waders that should wear out should not be your shoes. The first thing that wears out in the Smokies should be your butt of your waders or your knees. You need to be sitting down to catch these fish because there's plenty of critters up there in the Smokies that will eat those fish. And they can see you a lot further than you can see them, and they're experts at judging danger outside the water. If you're standing up on the deck of a bass boat, they can see you a whole lot further
Probably.
than if you're in a belly boat or in a kayak. And I believe the same thing may probably be hold true on Black Creek. Logan, you fish
Yeah.
more of that shallow water. How
So-
spooky are those fish?
So when you're walking up, like if you're going up to the beach area, you have that little pool to your right before you climb over the log, and right over there. I don't get close to the bank, and I'm on my hands and knees crawling over there casting because the red eye bass that are right there will spook real quick.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's no chance of catching them unless you crawl over there. And all the fish are like that over there. They can see a leaf fall or a rock come down that side, and they're gonna go away.
And I think they
I have a lot
can, I think they can feel a vibration. How far, Frank? 20 yards? Can they feel it?
Well, they can go to vibration through the lateral fence, the
Lateral
low frequency vibration.
Yeah,
That comes through the lateral fence.
yeah,
But they're gonna hear noises other than that, loud noises. It's gonna come through their inner ear system also. It's gonna come through their cells in their skin.
right.
And when that relates, they're gonna pick that up before you even get to the stream.
Yeah,
Once you get down near the stream, the vibrations you're talking about going to the lateral lines is a big factor.
absolutely.
You guys, when you get home, pull up on your cell phone, olfactory. What that is a dick.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't even know what you're talking about when you mention it, but consider that. How many of you, before going to Black Creek, have flew Hugh's car up that morning?
Yeah. I smell that gas on the fly.
You transfer of sense to your flies. And when you do that, that fish picks up on that real quick.
It does not smell like food.
Mhm.
And
They know,
know,
they may just be fish, but they know food from not food. Because there's plenty
Another
of
stuff
stuff.
that you pointed out that real well was about their eyes and not
Yeah.
having eyelids. But consider they have flat lenses on their eyes. They don't have a curvature on their eyes like we do.
Right.
Therefore, it makes them nearsighted. How many of you said that trouser bass come right up to the lure?
Oh, yeah.
Turn away from it. Once they got close to it, they identified that wasn't what they were.
Now, see, I've had the opposite happen too. I was fishing, Jimmy and I were fishing those creeks over near him, near Royer, that are real clear, crystal clear in the summertime, gin clear. And they would not touch my woolly booger. I could see the bass running from my woolly booger. I threw my woolly booger out, let it sink to the bottom where a fish could see it. Fish was probably 10 yards away. It swam over to it within about a foot and just sat there and watched it. And watched it and watched it. And I twitched that fly again, moved it about a half inch, and he swam right up to it, nose to nose with it. I don't think he knew what it was, but when I twitched it that last time, I think I just eased it just enough to wiggle the rubber legs on that woolly booger and immediately inhaled it. And I did that 6 more times, but again, I had to let that woolly booger soak. And I guess that was the real advantage of fishing in clear water, because I would never have done that in muddy water. Let a woolly booger sink. Do you fish a nelly booger that way, Gene? When you fish a nelly booger, do you let it sink to the bottom?
Just depends on the lure.
Yeah. But you'll let them sink a lot of times and then ease them up. I think that technique really will work for us to catch more fish. Letting it sink to the bottom, let that fish come to it. Flip over one more. There you go, Jimmy. I had to get a fish picture for you in there. Again, you caught that one out of the kayak. And again, those creeks over near Warrior are crystal clear in the summer when we fished them. And you've got to be down low. If you're standing up, you're not going to catch a fish over there. They're going to see you. One more. Let's see, talk about lateral lines. Again, you can see a big lateral line running
The
down
black.
that fish. Oh, I put this in, there's the spinner fly I like the most. It's got that propeller spinner up at the top of it. And I do believe one of the reasons that fly works is they can feel that vibration in the water. I mean, you think about it, all of us have seen Strike King spinnerbaits. Well, a Strike King spinnerbait doesn't look anything like a fish. It looks nothing like a fish, but a Strike King spinnerbait catches a whole lot of bass. And I believe it has to be from the vibration of that spinner in the water. And we can add spinners to our flies too. Got to be like a blue heron. You want to catch fish, you got to be stealthy. You got to stop and look and listen. 90% of the time, when we see a blue heron, maybe 98% of the time, when we see a blue heron, they're standing perfectly still. They're stopped, they're looking, and they're listening for the fish. And they fish for a living. And that's it. That's all I have to say. This is some of the resources that I've used. This is a great book by David Whitlock. If you want to learn more about the fundamentals of catching bass on the fly, that's an excellent book. Most of it comes from there. Those other two books. I love Mike Bolton's book. Y'all don't have, even if you've lived in Alabama all your life, Mike Bolton wrote a great book showing basically every major body of water in the state and how to fish it.
Did you show Bear Creek?
Yep, sure did.
Thank you, George. We
Yeah.
appreciate you. Very good, a lot of good information in there. I've got one thing I want to do. I want to share with you, and then I'm going to turn it over to the Black Creek folks. Frank gave me this, and I think I'll let you read it, though. I can't hardly see it. My eyes are really giving me a bad time. About the expos.
You want me to read it?
Yeah.
As part of the Black Creek program this year, Hugh has asked us with the Gadsden Area Tourism to go to the Knoxville fishing show as well as the Atlanta fishing show. The Knoxville one is January 20th through the 23rd. If you're interested in going up there and kind of promoting Black Creek and Neely Henry, let me know, send me an email, or get with me at the meeting. Let me know if you're interested in going up there and doing that. And I'll put together a list of who can go, what times you can be there and what days. If you're able to go, they should be able to credit you $75 towards your expenses. And then the same for the fishing show in Atlanta. It's fly fishing only, but it'll be promoting Neely Henry and Black Creek. And that is February 4th through the 6th. And it would be the same $75 per person for your expenses.
I can go to the Atlanta show.
So if you're interested in going, let me know. I'll put together a list, and then let me know what day you think you can go and how many hours you think you'll be there. And we'll kind of put together a schedule so we can have someone kind of manning the booth the whole time and hopefully promote the gas area as a whole.
Where in Atlanta?
It is on the eastern side, I believe. I don't remember the exact location. But I've got it somewhere. It's a smaller kind of venue. Knoxville's a little bit bigger.
She asked, and I couldn't hear, she asked about Atlanta,
Yeah, where they're,
Gwinnett County Civic Center,
yeah, Gwinnett County Civic Center.
where we generally had the Atlanta Fly Fishing Festival. Guess it's gonna be the Atlanta Fly Fishing Festival.
Yeah, it'll be fly fishing only in Atlanta, and I think Knoxville is a little bit more broad. Cover a little bit of everything.
If you know where the Bass Pro is there, it's Gwinnett County, Logan, it's right across there.
So if you're interested in that, just shoot me an email or get with me at the meeting and we'll get you signed up.
Oh, yeah, you put out an email with them.
Yeah, it'll go out with the newsletter. Yeah.
Yeah, y'all keep that in mind, and we'll try to get a good showing up there. I know Mary and I are planning on going to both shows. We're just gonna set up a time frame and be there. Well, let's go back to Black Creek. Logan and Terry and you guys, let's talk about what does it take to catch one of those big trout up there off Black Creek? I know George went into a lot of that up here, but we want to know what little black woolly booger you use, or what size, or what size tippet do you need, and stuff like that. Any techniques you do. Then I was talking to Frank today, and he says people aren't catching as many fish up there as they could because they're not getting technical. And you've got to get a little technical with these fish and learn what happens to that fly when you've got a little split shot on it, how it reacts to that and how it reacts in the water and stuff like that. So if some of you guys want to speak up, or somebody have any questions?
Yeah, I think like I won't speak for the current stuff, but because I haven't been up there yet recently, but if you can see this picture, I think this is probably the area where everyone's most familiar with, which is the beach. It's the easiest place to cast, in my opinion. Pretty simple, and there's one little area, and it's not a very far cast for you to make.
Well, I watched you one day. I was sitting somewhere over here and you were on a rock somewhere right out through there.
That wouldn't have been me. That'd have been someone else. I don't fish from the other side.
Well, I thought it was you.
I'm not brave enough to get over there.
Well, there was somebody that looked like you, and he was standing on, he was wearing them out. He was casting straight up in towards the falls, and he could hit a little bit of spray there.
Yeah,
And
and like George pointed out, they're going to hold around that little point where
Yeah.
the water's funneling in, and they don't have to be sitting in that current. And the same goes for this little slot right here. You have, if you go during the summer when the water is very, very low, or any other time when it's really low,
Yeah.
and clear, you can see the rocks and how they're structured in that river. And that's where your fly is getting hung up when you come through there and you lose it.
yeah,
But they're holding right around those areas. So at the beginning of the beach, there's a lot of pockets on the far side where you're making a cast. But as you get right here where that grass is, I mean, there's rocks right on the edge of that grass that you could cast and catch them on. But again, you can't just wade right out there. You got to be somewhat stealthy and not disturbable as you're getting up there.
I've seen a lot of people.
Anything. I don't, when I go up to Black Creek, I don't go and I don't just change fly after fly after fly and try to catch them. I just tie on something that I want to use for the day. And if they don't eat it, I go find someone else that's gonna be a willing participant. But I think Alan said earlier, he caught one on a olive woolly booger recently. I mean, that's a pretty much standard go-to up there, I believe.
Those fish were a lot more finicky. Peters, two backs, of fish that got in there, cause I only caught one, in, what, 2 hours? Terry caught one.
They just been released, right?
Yeah.
It's been released. They were-
Maybe a few days.
Earlier,
Yeah, it's gonna take at least.
So then,
early on, the other batches that we had, black woolly booger with a black zebra midge was the go-to. But these, they didn't touch mine this time. But I was gonna suggest anybody that goes and wants to fish off the beach, carry your rain jacket, so the spray coming off that waterfall will get you soaking wet.
yeah. Frank Chambers was telling me he'd been doing pretty good with little midges and stuff, and our friend right here, said he's been catching off little copper johns, what, size number 10 or 12 or 14 copper johns? How about 12? Little copper john and little what, flashbacks? Flashback name. Yeah, and stuff like that, fishing them by themselves, with a little split shot. That
Y'all-
helps.
Y'all mentioned something that raised a question for me. Has anybody done any research? I wonder how long it takes those trout to transition fully from commercial hatchery food to natural food? That's all?
Yeah.
They get hungry quick.
Yeah, once they get hungry, they'll just start going and eating.
Portions of food. They're not eating that big frog and big baked fish better than that friend, not the best one. They're eating small.
There's tons of small nymphs, insects.
What about heliger mines? Is there any? Or heliger mines?
There might be,
Hellgrammites,
Yeah, there are.
but again,
there are a lot of hellgrammites in there, little stone flies. You can kick up a rock and you can see
Well,
them.
they eat spiders, like water spiders. Like them little spiders, you know, in the summer.
striders,
Spiders.
they're not gonna go to that much work. They're not gonna go to the surface to eat something like that. Have anybody caught any off the surface this time of year? Have you?
I have in recent ones. They haven't been coming as fast as they have on my woolly buggers and nymphs. But what's happened early on, right after the permit subdivision, I decided, hey, we getting big dry fly fishing is fun. We ought to give it a shot early on and see what we can get going. They're fishing, everybody probably knows what a midge is. Midge is a gnat, small hellgrammites, so stuff like that. That's what they have paid for. I tried some larger casts, it didn't do well.
Yeah.
It's a real small guy.
There's nothing big hatching out. There are small midges, small gnats, mosquitoes hatching out every day.
Is there any men?
Do you flip- Fishing a dry dropper when you're doing that?
Not a drop,
Okay.
small guys. I don't believe they would support anything in a drop.
I've been fishing a Chernobyl with the dropper on it, and that's also works well.
How far do you drop?
Depends on which part of the creek I'm fishing. I try to get it pretty close to the bottom. So some areas, I mean, it's only that far, but some of it a little bit further.
And fish, trailers, they were eating something off the top of the water.
But these midges,
Oh, there you go, top of the water, top of the water. I tried throwing cats out there.
I think I have. Let me see if I can find this.
these midges I'm referring to, a lot of people think when I say midge, they're thinking wet plums. These midges I'm talking about are dry plums.
Mhm.
These are mosquitoes. These are gnats, and kind of unusual to get gnats in your face or mosquitoes eating you up before it turns cool. These are on top of what I'm talking about. That's the reason I say they won't support a dropper, but
I wonder if later in the year they would eat some black ants. I
Black
wonder,
ants, I think,
later,
would be a go-to in that coach.
later in the year, some of the small black ants that are up there.
Like that.
Ant. Black ant. Yeah.
They got the little red. The blood.
Well, you know, we've been talking about all these small flies and nymphs and gnats and stuff. How tippet shy are these fish? Do they seem to be bad? Can you get by with a 3X tippet, or you need to go to a 4 or 5? 5?
Yeah,
5X.
5 and 4 is all been
Yeah.
using down there. So this picture that's on the screen, that pool right there, you can obviously fish in and everything. But if you go to the right is where you start getting into some of the more rapids and a little bit of foam that's over there. And that's where this bass actually came out of. And he hit I was fishing a dry dropper, and he hit the dropper that was floating along the bottom and just came out from behind a rock and hit it. But again, I had to be low to the ground and away from the side of the creek to get out there, because when you get to this point right here, they can see you and they're scattering. And so if you're scaring these guys away, you know, there's always a chance you're going to scare everything else that's around them. So, you know, as easy it is just to walk straight down to the bank, also think about that.
Describe how you guys are catching them though down further, where you don't have, that one area to cast. Because you can't even go off the box in some places.
What do you mean? How, like, you're casting to them and stuff? I mean, I'll throw it out there if I have to. I mean, just whichever way you're more comfortable with. You can bow and arrow some of them and get a drift. And once you fish that initial area, you can kind of work your way closer to the bank.
Well, another point we can touch on is there any particular time of day? I've heard we got one individual that goes in there with a flashlight or a torch every morning, and sometimes he has to have one to get out of there. So do they seem to be early morning, late afternoon, or just pretty much throughout the day at periods of time when they decide to take a bite and eat? Nobody got any experience with that, huh?
In the morning, when I go in at daylight and come out in time to open the store at 9 o'clock, it's not unusual to catch 4 fish in that short period of time.
Yeah.
What do you think about the beach? They got lights up on top of the falls up there. That place stays lit up all night long. You can go out there and fish all night long.
I get up there real early.
Yeah, I was speaking to you, Logan, when I said
Well,
that.
I mean, Frank gets up there usually more often than I do early in the mornings, but I mean, I caught this catfish right as the sun was coming up over the gorge. I climbed down in there with a headlamp and I drank my coffee and eat my biscuit. And then as dawn actually hits, when it's legal to fish, that's when I'm
Breakfast on the
fishing.
creek.
So, hey, it's more relaxing than sitting inside a Jack's.
Y'all seem to be very reluctant to release any of your top secret information for some reason.
It's not really secret. It's just,
We're a family here. We need to spread the wealth and, yeah, Frank.
Can I borrow the microphone, man? My voice got pretty well. I feel like I'm shouting. First of all, Terry, he's the most productive person in the upper pool. I don't fish it much, but I have information that Terry's the most productive person up there. Terry, tell us what you're doing before I start.
Yeah, they don't want to talk.
I don't think there's any great,
Don't give away our secret.
there's no great secret to it.
Well, the guy more
I
than
don't think there's
probably blood.
any secret fly. In general, I'm gonna get what Frank emphasized, They're eating really small stuff.
Mhm.
So concentrate on the small flies. In the big pool, plunge pool, the fish are mostly down near the bottom. That's where you're gonna catch most of them. I like to throw a double rig, but it's not necessary. Some guys don't like it because it's easy to get tangled up. But I'll catch the majority of the fish on the bottom fly. And what seems to work the best is to, since you want to be not, you don't want your fly on the bottom, you want the fly near the bottom. So you put a little split shot, a little tiny split shot, about foot 18 inches above your fly. Then that split shot's going to be on the bottom, and the fly's going to be up 6 inches or a foot or so. And it seems to look more natural.
Now we got something we can use.
I mean, when you're going small, I'm going like 16. Is that about where you're at?
Yes.
Yeah, size 16. So if you're trying to 3x tip it through size 16, it's a little difficult sometimes. So
And
definitely
back to the
drop it
other
down.
point, I've not found those, they're hatchery fish.
Mhm.
I've not found them to be particularly leader shot.
Yeah.
Sherry, once they move downstream, down the road, triple fall, where you put them in the other day, it won't take but a week or so for them to start becoming leadership and more conscious of what they're taking,
Yes.
as opposed to those fish up at the falls are really more, they're more receptive to the bigger flies and the larger leaders. And Terry showed several people how they need to fly fish up there. And I think Dwayne, you was one of them. And Dwayne has went to, I'm gonna say, a mill with fish shot out in front. And he's been productive, now he's been fly fishing long, or trout fishing long, but he's gotten real productive by using the techniques Terry showed him at the falls, but going to small nymphs and or lay it out in front of them. If you get downstream, a couple of fellows that work with me have gotten real successful down there. One caught 9 before lunch and 9 after. He'd been fly fishing 2 years, going with guides and only picking up 2 to 3 trout every time he went with a guide. But he said, Frank, I want to learn to fly fish. I want to learn to trout fish. Vascular surgeon out of Birmingham, George, and this fellow went up there and he was doing a lot of things wrong when it comes to technical fishing. So we had to get right to bad habits and start from the ground up. He caught 9 fish that morning, landed 9 fish that afternoon. But we started back at ground basics without giving anything away, trying to keep it a mystery to the fly fishermen that go up there. I don't want to tell you what walked the sand up. I don't mind sharing you what flies. And I think Logan said something about tippet size and fly size. Once you get down into the flies I'm using, 5 and 6X, you're gonna have to move to those small tippets in order to get it through that eye of the fly.
Yeah.
But let's start off from the beginning. Yes, sir.
I was just gonna comment that little technique I talked about using at the plunge pool. It's not gonna work anywhere else, all those other places where Frank's talking about. You'll get hung up in the rocks and lose all your flies. So no, that's just for the plunge pool.
And it's real successful. The number of fish they're picking up is really good. But if you move downstream below Triple Falls where Logan and I'm doing some fishing. How many of you like to hunt? Okay. If you're not stalking these fish or looking for them, maybe getting down on your knees and looking over these ledges on these rocks down there. If you're not stalking these fish before you catch that first line, you're missing big opportunity. For me, it's as much as a stalk or a hunt as it is fishing. And I enjoyed both ends of it. Okay, I found the fish. Now what am I gonna do? Where have I gotta put that fly to get to that fish? I'll give you an obvious thing. I can't throw it in there like I would a bass right in on top of it. It's not gonna work for me to catch that fly right in there. Okay? I'll put it where I think I can get good drift and get drift down to him. That bass is setting here, or trout setting here. And then it's coming down to, if it's an arm reach to either side, that food George talking about that's washing down by, there's enough of it coming by that he ain't moving left or right. Okay? You catch that fish and you run upstream to the next hole to try to find another fish. If I'm around, you just show me where the fish are. These are creatures that have a pecking order. You pull that fish out of that hole, another fish can move right into it. You can stand right there and catch trout most of the morning. But if you leave that spot, it's not yours anymore. Frank's moving into it. Okay? Like y'all told me. So, you know, watch and stalk for the fish. Watch your other fly fishermen. Take time to stop along and look and see what that guy's doing. Okay. Try to see what kind of rig he's setting up. It may be your old nephew. He may have the rings and 3 flies off of that thing. He may be simply split shot nippy, like Dwayne's doing. There's not a bad way either way. It's whatever you prefer. A lot of people have problem casting with that Euro nipping style with flies stacked up down there, and they end up with too many flies up in the trees as they do in water.
You can get real good at untying all the knots, right?
Every time you catch a fish, it's a pain in the ass. Don't do it. It's my least favorite way to fish.
But spot that fish, and when you spot that fish now, George, are fishy spots. When we see them, we know they're fishy spots.
Yeah.
When you spot that fish there, memorize what that spot looks like. Because you may go upstream and find a fishy spot. You're not seeing any fish, but you see a fishy spot that looks just like what you just looked at. So you got your fishy spots. Fished up. Now, a lot of people get bites and they don't get fishy. Work on these soft hand techniques as far as setting hook. Those soft hand techniques also has to be handled. You gotta keep a tight line. Gene, you let your line go slack on that big fish you caught the other day, you'd probably gone, what? You know, you've got to keep your line tight. So you got to keep your line tight, but if you pull it too hard or too much tension, we just pulled it through that trap slope. So you got to fishing with soft hands. Okay. And if I'm standing there netting you, no longer do I think that you pull a fly fisherman all the way out there in 10 deep of water and take another step out in deeper water netting for you. I think that if King catches that fish and he brings it in, he's got to hit me in the boots with it if I'm a net. You know, it's his job as a fly fisherman and what he's doing to bring the fish to the net. This net shouldn't be chasing. But back to what I'm fishing. I'm fishing on a lot of small nymphs. Stuff that will be definitely 14s and smaller. Copper Johns. Anybody remember what the big head cat people looks like? That's dead on for that goat. There's about 3 different colors through the seasons. It's gonna change which ones it's hitting. And of course, Alan's black woolly bugger. If nothing else is working, put that black woolly bugger in the water. It may take an olive when it may have to change colors. You may have to go to a warm brown. Move around with it. Okay. If you miss a fish, or you see fish, or you get down there and say, man, they just wasn't on today. There's a lot more enjoyment to it. There's a lot more to fly fishing than just catching fish. Just get down there and enjoy it. And that's without you going down there and us taking it a step at a time, which I've almost promised Dwayne that I'd do with him one morning if I was there with him. I can't tell you anymore, you know. But don't be afraid to get on those boulders and look for food. If you step on that water, out in that water before you start looking, you just narrowed your chances down. Logan was talking about fishing in the water before you get to it. If you get out there and step in the water first, the lateral lines on that fish, you gotta know where you're at.
My boots don't get wet until I'm about ready to leave. That's usually how it goes. I try to stay out of the water as much as possible.
There you go. That's a good idea. Now, the falls is one of those places. At times, it's almost a must to get out there knee deep or so to make the proper cast to get it where you want it. I realize that. But I've seen a couple of people that may be out there a little far, and we all keep that in mind. Accidents happen, and if you slip down in that current or fall off that ledge, please take a deep breath, because it may be a couple months before we find you.
It happens.
You know, the safest trails, I think Logan has already mentioned one of them, is
The-
Suspended Bridge Trail.
Yeah, the suspension bridge trail is the safest and easiest access into the gorge because it's maintained. Everyone takes it to get down there. So it's usually well packed in and there's not a lot of leaves. Going down the campground trail, it is steep, it's rocky, it's always covered with leaves. I mean, that's where all the water is washing down from the campground into the gorge. It's the trail I usually take, but I'm going slow, watching my step, taking a minute to look and see what's ahead of me. And that's where, when I come down, and like Frank says, I'll stop on that campground trail before I get all the way to the bottom, and I'll just sit there and watch. And you'll see those fish. And that's how you can kind of figure out what they're doing. And you can start there and work your way up the gorge.
Now, Mary and I were going out one time up the campground trail, and we stood there, I know, 5 or 6 minutes, because there were so many people coming down that way. Just as fast as one got out of the way, there was 2 or 3 sliding down behind.
Erosion has taken its toll on that trail.
Mhm.
And if you're 5'3", with legs at 4 toes,
Yeah.
every step is a drop. You
Mhm.
can't touch the next place down before you feet up top is released.
Yeah.
And when you're coming up,
You're climbing out.
you're climbing, you're not stepping, you're climbing.
Yeah, you do. Whenever I tell you about a trail, just think I'm taking a lot longer stride. I got a lot more length there, so it's a little bit easier for me. But the suspension bridge is great because you come in and you can just work your way up the whole way. Go along the creek.
There's one other question that I wanted, and Frank has told me, I've asked him this probably several times. You're talking about looking in the water, seeing fish.
Mhm.
What, and you don't so much need shades down there, but what's the best color lens to use? You know, I've been to
Brian,
places they say, oh, these amber ones, they're the best thing they ever created, and somebody else said not. The green lens and black lenses. What's the consensus lenses to see in the water? Best polarized lenses.
I don't know. I'm not using
They need to
lenses
be
when I'm down there.
polarized.
Yeah, they gotta be polarized.
Yeah, they gotta be a
But-
good grade, high grade polarization on them, but
gorgeous dark, and I'll
Mhm.
throw my 2 cents in real quick on that. Anything from a shooting glass covered lens through a bronze in somewhere in there. It's dark down there.
Yeah,
Early in the mornings when I go in, my light colored lenses, which is very near a shooting glass color, lighten things up, but the polarization that he's talking about is there, and I can see more clearly in the water.
Once you get in the winter months, you can't see in the water anyways, so you're good there, but
well, I wish we had more visitors tonight than we do have, but that's some good information there for people that are just getting in and learning, and even people that have been in it for a lot of years. I was telling Frank today, it's been several years since I fished up at the Tick on a regular basis, and I could sit there and work a drift without any problem at all. And we got up the Elk River last week, and I couldn't get a good drift to save my life. I don't know what the heck was going on, but I just forgotten all about the techniques of making a good drift. And that's probably as important thing as you can learn in fishing moving water. Another thing you need to know, a trout's sitting there, like George said, they're sitting there looking for something to come down and hit them in the nose. But a trout will hit just about anything that comes in front of him, and he'll take it in and he'll spit it out in a split second if it doesn't taste right. And a lot of times, if you don't have that line good, tight, you won't feel it. But if you got your line right, if you're holding your rod right and got that line right, when that thing sucks in, you'll feel it. And quick enough, you can hook him before he spits it back out. So, well, I think that ended up being a pretty good topic to talk about tonight. And I got one other thing I wanna say is we got these guides coming, and you people wanted them, and you still want these vendors coming in and talking to us about stuff. They're very reluctant to come because their experience is we come and talk to you guys and you don't reciprocate. We don't get any business out of you or whatever. So seriously consider these vendors, these guides, and that we're going to bring in here, and we'll keep doing it. And if you have any kind of a topic you want to hear about, or somebody you want to come talk to us about whatever, we're very acceptable to scheduling things that would be of interest to you and to all of us. So with that, I'll say, well, we have a little social time, and you guys can talk about or ask more questions or whatever you want to do. And we're going to have to clean this place up. Everybody knows that. We'll straighten the tables up, and it goes faster if everybody jumps in there and helps. So that's it. And just remember, December the 2nd, we got Tony Cox coming, and I'm excited about him because I've been wanting to get up that area and get in those smallmouth, and just never pursued it. And thanks to Shannon McCraley, we got it coming. So that's all I got to say, folks.